Well, hello everyone. It is April. I hope that you are enjoying every day August so far. There are a lot of lists swirling around, mostly by companies and publications like the New York Times, what have you, GOODREADS, where they're talking about the best 2021 releases. Well, I wanted to go through myself all of the 2021 releases that I have read and give you my honest opinion. Should you purchase them? Should you give them a pass? That is what we're doing today. So let's dive in. I've got two huge stacks right beside me. Let's start with Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This book follows a girl named Charlie who is on her way home from her college campus. She's decided to leave and she needs a ride. So she goes onto the ride board and gets a ride with this guy named, I think, Josh. She's driving home and she starts to have a feeling that there's something just wrong with Josh, that he actually might be the serial killer going around campus killing off people, specifically women, including her best friend. And it's about her experience on the way. I would give Survive the Night a pass. This did not work for me. It was okay, but just okay. Most likely my least favorite Riley Sager that I've read. I found it really kind of cliche, lots of film references. She's a film student in here, and it got very cliche in those references. I wasn't blown away by the twists and turns at all. In fact, the twists and turns frustrated me. So I would give Survive the Night a hard pass. Next up, we've got The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. This hasn't even come out in the US, Canada. It's coming out in September. However, you can get it on Book Depository, which I did. This is a very confusing story. It follows a man who lives on the last house on Needless Street, his daughter, and his cat. You also follow a girl looking for her sister who went missing when she was quite young. And it's very confusing kind of book. Things are revealed slowly and you get to know the full picture of it at the end. It sounds very scary, but in the end it was more heartwarming, in fact. I would give this a purchase, absolutely. It was really wonderfully written. It felt a lot like Ian Reid's writing, so if you liked I'm Thinking of Ending Things, I would try something like this. Also Foe by Ian Reid, where you get this slow reveal and you don't really know what's happening for a long time. The only thing that I could really fault this with is being too long and being too confused for too long as a reader. But I thought this was really, really wonderful in the end. So I would give this a purchase. Next up, we've got The Nature of Fragile Things by Susan Meissner. This follows a woman in San Francisco. It is 1906. She enters a marriage of convenience. She marries a man who already has a daughter who really doesn't speak. She does speak every once in a while, but very few words. She marries this man, and the night before a massive earthquake rocks San Francisco, a woman shows up at her door with some very life-changing news. And these women band together during this massive earthquake that really did happen and really did, you know, destroy San Francisco at the time. I would absolutely give this a purchase. I really enjoy Susan Meissner's writing. I really care about all of the characters. The predicament that these women were in was appalling and overwhelming and really dramatic. And then the backdrop of this massive earthquake, it's like ruin upon ruin upon ruin. I love it when there's drama in someone's life while also there being drama of some sort in the world. I really enjoyed that. So I would give this a purchase for sure. Next up is Yellow Wife by Sadiqa Johnson. Yellow Wife is about a young Black woman. She is enslaved. Her mother was enslaved, and Her mother is in good standing. I don't know what to say. She is highly cared for by the plantation owner. And the plantation owner has said, you know what, like when your daughter reaches, I think 18 years of age, I will set her free. And he dies before her 18th birthday. She ends up going to stay with a man who is a jailer, essentially. And she is light-skinned, and it's about him, you know, revering her light skin, and it's also about his cruelty. This was like everywhere this year. I would give this a pass, unfortunately. I found some of the writing lacking. I found the descriptions of childbirth to be really kind of funny, because it was like, she pushed and it was out, and you're like, that's not, maybe it does happen sometimes, but it just didn't feel like this author had childbirth, even though I think she has like 3 kids of her own. It didn't quite work for me. So for me, this is a pass. Next up, we've got The Hunting of Lee Harper by Darcy Coates. This one is coming out in September, I think September 7th. This follows a woman who, while she's sleeping in her bed, she sees a figure in the doorway staring at her. And over again, in her suburban home, this keeps happening, and she's lived here for a while. She's lived here for a good long while, and nothing weird has happened before, and all of a sudden it feels like she's being haunted, and she tries to get to the bottom of why. Who is this figure? For me, I would give this a pass. I prefer other Darcy Coates writing. This just became more heartwarming than scary, and I picked this book up to be scared. Darcy Coates really does really great like horror ghost stories really well, and I wanted it to be like a classic ghost story, and it just was slightly lacking to me. So I would give this a pass and try something else by Darcy Coates. Next up, we've got The Final Girls Support Group by Grady Hendrix. Now, I will say, when I am filming this, I am currently reading this. I am 150-ish pages in. The Final Girls Support Group follows a group of women who are all final girls in one way or another. They have all survived and been the last ones standing in horrific mass murders. And in this book, you follow each of them giving one another support. They literally have a support group. They meet, I think it's once a month, and they lean on each other. And we find ourselves in a situation where someone is trying to bring down the final girls one by one. Grady Hendrix is a wonderful author. He's done it again. I would absolutely purchase this book if you like any of his other books. It's horror, it's gross sometimes, it's scary sometimes, but it's also funny. He has so much fun with his writing, and I love that about him, and I love the characters. I'm just enjoying this so much. Definitely give this a purchase. Next up, we've got The Drowning Kind by Jennifer McMahon. First of all, this cover is so gorgeous. This follows a woman who is really at odds with her sister. Her sister has mental health issues and has been known in the past to lash out and act out. And her sister calls her one evening on repeat. Her sister lives at her grandmother's home where they like spent a lot of summers. And that night that her sister had repeatedly called her, she is found drowned in the pool in that home's backyard. And it's not the first drowning. The pool in the backyard is a healing pool. It grants wishes essentially, but when it gives, it also takes, and it follows our main character going back to the home to kind of sort through what happened in her sister's last days, and also to, you know, bury her sister. And it also follows a character in the past using the pool for her own wishes. I would sadly give this a pass. At least for me, I don't really like water stories. I don't know what it is. Like anything there's like a fairy or a siren or something along those lines where there's something in the water that's bad, it just doesn't work for me. So I would give this a pass. However, if that kind of storyline sounds good to you, maybe give it a go. Maybe get it from the library or something. The writing was good because Jennifer McMahon's writing is always good. So that's The Drowning Kind. Next up, we've got The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Delilah Harris. The Other Black Girl is a thriller that follows a Black woman who is in the publishing world. She's surrounded by white people with very white points of view. And she is very excited when one day another Black girl, the other Black girl, shows up and is going to start working alongside her. And they get along really well. However, at the same time that this other Black girl she starts to receive strange messages left on her desk. Little notes are left that say, leave this publishing house, like we don't want you here. And it gets more and more, stern, I guess I would say, and threatening. I ended up DNFing this, so you can tell that I would say give it a pass. However, similarly to The Drowning Kind, I think it just didn't work quite for me. The marketing says that it's a thriller, but it didn't feel like a thriller. And at the time I was really in the mood for a thriller and it just didn't deliver for me. However, if you're up for a contemporary book that really does explore the publishing industry being so white and its need to change and its issues with racism, definitely give it a purchase if you're into that. So pass/purchase. Next up, we have The Burning Girls by C.J. Tudor. This is about a pastor who goes to a small little town to start preaching to the local church. She is a single mother. She has a teenage daughter that she gets along with very, very well. Now, she gets there and realizes that the past pastor died very suddenly and brutally, he, I think, hung himself in the church. And when she is going through his belongings, she finds exorcism kits in there, very disturbing things. And as a pastor, she gets to know this small little town incredibly well because she goes visiting each and every person who lives in this little village. And this kind of blends the paranormal with a thriller. It's kind of a paranormal thriller combined. I would give this a purchase. I thought this was wonderful. It changed my mind about C.J. Tudor because I nearly abandoned her writing. And I'm so glad that I didn't because this was original and scary and spooky and fantastic. And I loved the mother and daughter relationship being so great. You don't read about that a lot, so I loved it. I would definitely give this a purchase. Next, we've got The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. The Lost Village is about a documentary crew who go to this abandoned village. Literally, it was abandoned. One day in the past, I'm not sure when, 1959, a whole village went missing. Everyone in the village just vanished except for 2 people. There was a baby left alive and well in an apartment, and then a woman who was stoned to death in the town square. Everyone else vanished. And this documentary crew are there to find out what happened. One of the crew's grandmothers lived there and grew up there, and her whole family essentially went missing. So they're trying to discover what happened. And it goes from present to the past, finding out what was going on in this village at the time. I'm going to give this a hard pass. I think you should pass on The Lost Village. I found the character development very unbelievable. Bad things would happen to the characters, of course, because it's a thriller. And I didn't believe the emotions that the other people had. it also wasn't on edge enough for me. Like, I wasn't scared enough. I didn't enjoy it. I would give this a pass. Next up, we've got The Push by Ashley Odren. This is a Canadian book. She is actually someone who worked at Penguin, I believe, in the past. The Push is about a mother whose daughter is born and there's something off. Their relationship just isn't there. She wonders if she has had, you know, postpartum depression, really struggles to bond with Violet. And then her son is born and all of the emotions that she wanted to have are all there for her son. So there, so strong. But she still feels this weird disconnect from Violet. And it is about her relationship with Violet, her relationship with her husband, who thinks like, this is all in your head. Violet is awesome. And as you're reading the story, you're trying to decide, is our main character just really struggling to connect with her daughter? Or is there something wrong with Violet? I loved this book. Absolutely wonderful. Definitely give this a purchase. Please do. Next up, we've got Every Last Fear by Alex Finlay. This follows a young man. He is a student, a university student, and learns that his entire family, save his brother, his entire family had gone on vacation and all died. It was like carbon monoxide poisoning or something along those lines. I think they went to Mexico. The police have chalked it up as like a horrible accident. But as the FBI, as you know, the police start looking into it a bit more, they start to wonder whether it was an accident. This is not the first time that extreme horror has befallen this family. His brother wasn't at this vacation in Mexico because he's in prison, and he's in prison for having killed his girlfriend many years ago. And it's about our main character trying to find out what happened to his family and also what happened in the past. I would give this a hard pass. I really hated this book. It was so boring. I was bored to death and I didn't care about any of the storylines. Hard pass. Last but not least, we've got Project Hail Mary, one of the only sci-fi books I've read this year. Project Hail Mary follows a teacher, a high school teacher. He teaches science and he finds out that the world is very much threatened. So this guy ends up on a spacecraft, and the mission on the spacecraft is to save the world. He wakes up, doesn't really remember who he is. He looks around at his crewmates. Everybody's dead but him. He is the only person who can save the world, and he can't really remember why he's there, who he is, what he needs to do. And I will say he meets someone, and that connection is one of my favorite connections. I loved it so much. So this is definitely a purchase from me. Andy Weir has done it again. If you liked The Martian, absolutely pick this up for sure. Very science heavy, very confusing at times, but it doesn't take away in any way, shape, or form from the enjoyment. So that's a definite purchase. And those are all of the books that I wanted to share with you. Let me know in the comments below what books have come out in 2021 that you absolutely would recommend to purchase. I would love to know. And I will chat with you tomorrow.